is and what you can do afterwards with the knowledge that you are going to acquire from this workshop. Before we start, after lunch, we are going to have an introduction where every participant will get to introduce themselves and talk about their area of research or what they are working on. So I would like you to prepare something towards that meeting after lunch, which will be our session after lunch, which you should after we conclude this workshop. I like to do this before so that Friday morning we'll come back to it again and also have another discussion where we see whether we have met up or we are there's some shortfall or what we can address in future. Okay, yes. Okay, so I'm Clement Onime by name. I finished from Ife here, and so I do have both an academic and a research profile. And unfortunately, the slides are not very clear, but we'll probably try and make available to the participants the slides that are being presented. So the ICTP is short for International Center for Theoretical Physics, and it was created in 1964 by a Nobel laureate, and he wanted to enhance international cooperation and scientific development through science. Incidentally, the founder was from Pakistan, and so he appreciated the challenges of people coming from least developed countries in accessing science and doing world-class science. So he went on to study at Cambridge in the UK, and eventually when he had the opportunity, he said, my desire is to create a place where people from developing countries can meet with people from developed countries as equals to talk about science. And one of his famous statements is that science is the common heritage of mankind, which is it's something that is for everybody in the world, not just for the whites or the blacks or the developed or not developed. So ICTP currently runs under an agreement between Italy, UNESCO, and the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna. And we work through building scientific capacity in developing anything like that. It's a really free scientific environment. And we focus a lot on three key areas: research, education, and outreach. We have also been part of the activities related to climate change. One of our heads of units was part of the team that won a Nobel Prize for their work on climate change research. There are opportunities that we have as ICTP for people who are in different phases of an academic career. So from students to young lecturers or researchers, to senior researchers, and even full professors and things like that. So I hope we'll have the opportunity to explore this together. So everything from fellowships to supporting PhD programs, to supporting career development in the various fields. So with that, I would like to thank you all for coming, and I look forward to starting with you about IoT after lunch. Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Mini. Where's Mr. Lady? Please come and bring our Vice Chancellor to the high table for the formal opening of the workshop.
Thank you, ma'am. I have the singular honor to invite our Deputy Vice Chancellor. He's also representing the Vice Chancellor. Ma, can you please step forward? And we also have here our father, Professor Olaleye VF, Provost, Postgraduate School. You are welcome, sir. For Postgraduate College. Thank you, sir. So I also have before me here Professor Ofoze. Okay, he just stepped out. Professor Awolowo. Sir, can you please step forward, sir? Thank you, sir. We also have in our midst Professor Henby Adewole. Okay. Yeah, please, sir. Dr. Dr. O.J. Matthew. So maybe they will join us very soon. And we have Dr. A.T. Oyewale. Our mother, who has been in the forefront of the struggle, Dr. Mrs. Aderonke Okoya. So people say behind a successful man there should be a strong man. I have the honor to invite to the high table. Okay, I'll be directed to hold for now. Put that on hold. So without further wasting of time, you will all agree with me that data gathering, especially in surface water monitoring and management, has been a great problem confronting us as a state, as a nation, and that is why the school authority, through the Institute of Ecology and Environmental Study, has organized this workshop. I want to assure everybody at the end of this meeting, you will not remain the same. You must have acquired enough knowledge to help us solve the problem we are having in the surface water management. So I thank you all for your presence, for taking your time out of this tight schedule. We really appreciate your presence. So thank you and God bless. So without wasting time any longer, I think we are in break now. Okay. Okay, let me move to the next item, which is
Welcome address by the Vice Chancellor.
okay. So we are going to receive welcome address for our amiable mother, who is representing the Vice Chancellor. So you are welcome, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. That's why we have elders in the house. And we are over conscious of the fact that they don't have much time to stay with us. But thank you for the opportunity to address these great participants for the workshop. This is a welcome address by Dr. Mrs. Okoya, the principal investigator of the project. Well, all protocols duly observed. I don't want to take much of our time. I recognize you, sirs and ma'am. I give glory to God, the giver of life and the author of destiny, for granting us the grace to witness today in good health and sound mind. It affords me a great pleasure, and I consider it a rare privilege to welcome you to the commencement of the training workshop on the installation and use of IoT-based sensors for real-time monitoring of pollution in surface water bodies in southwestern Nigeria. This workshop, jointly organized by the SWETCH Research Group of the Institute of Ecology and Environmental Studies of this great university and the International Center for Theoretical Physics, in conjunction with West Africa and Central Africa Research and Education Network, WACREN, Ghana, is a testament to the mandate of the Institute of our leading efforts on emerging environmental concerns and to raise awareness about the impact of urbanization, industrialization, and new technologies on the environment. It also serves in leveraging emerging digital tools and technologies such as advanced IoT-based sensing techniques in surface water pollution monitoring in Nigeria. To this effect, a collaboration was established between our research group, SWETCH Research Group of the Institute, and WACREN for the purchase of sensors, LoRaWAN gateway devices. I want to put on record that the sensors were bought by the postgraduate students who are working on this project in collaboration with SWETCH Research Group. And after buying the sensors, we don't have way to install it. The ICTP team, on their own, they are responsible for the installation of the sensors for the 3 locations in southwestern Nigeria. Not only that, we didn't pay them any AF tickets, they brought themselves down here as part of their support. We are very grateful, sir. They are also the one who pulled WACREN along to buy the remaining equipment to be installed. They brought the gateway for the 3 centers. But WACREN, we appreciate your support, and they also supported us for the tea break. We are not taking it for granted. We are very grateful. So, to this effect, this collaboration is not only, this one is just a prototype. We want to tell you that we need to undergo this training so that by the time we are extending it to other surface waters in Nigeria, those of us that are trained here will play a very big role in carrying out the installation, and it's not going to be for every bit of need that we need. We have to call them from ICTP in Italy. That is the essence of the training program. So this installation of IoT-based real-time surface water pollution sensors in this our Opa reservoir and other selected water bodies in southwestern Nigeria is in line with the vision of Obafemi Awolowo University to be a top-rated university in Africa. That is the technological flagship of the West African sub-region, as evidenced by its application of modern technology to teaching, research, and community services, and its provision of practical solutions to social, cultural, and economic problems. So we want to still continue to maintain the #1 position in all aspects. So the support of the university management towards the acquisition of this program cannot be overemphasized. I know I must have appeared persistent on the subject to the Vice Chancellor and the Deputy Vice Chancellors, as well as the Executive Director, Central Office of Research, during the planning of this workshop. I am not used to taking no for an answer, so sorry for disturbing you at all times. I will keep on disturbing you now. Please extend my apologies to free, and we are very grateful to Professor Adewumi. Thank you very much for your kind gesture and support. Finally, I want to congratulate the selected participants for making it to this training, which promises to further equip our water research studies and improve our decision-making capacities in tackling water pollution problems in Nigeria. I wish you a fruitful training workshop and a wonderful time in Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma, for the brief and precise speech. Next on the agenda.
Good afternoon, everybody. The Vice Chancellor, ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, all other protocols duly observed, dating from Italy, led by Professor Clement Renime, our own. The resource persons from Ethiopia and South Africa, Dr. Giso and Dr. Obudu respectively, the WACRE representative from Accra, Ghana, participants from Obafemi Awolowo University. I don't know whether we have participants from University of Ibadan, Bowen University. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome you to the opening ceremony of this significant training workshop on the installation and the use of Internet of Things IoT-based sensors for real-time monitoring of pollution in selected surface water bodies in southwestern Nigeria. This workshop marks a pivotal moment as we come together to advance our understanding and application of technology in crucial realms of water quality monitoring. In Obafemi Awolowo University, our vision is to build a postgraduate college that is renowned for quality in research, ICT-based teaching and learning, and in an environment that promotes collaboration, individualism, and innovation. In order to do this, we are committed to our mission, which is to maintain a tradition of excellence in postgraduate research and scholarship, combined with up-to-date facilities and strong commitment to the pursuit of knowledge. And this training particularly, or this workshop, is very relevant to this vision. The application of IoT-based sensor has the potential to completely transform how we identify and manage pollution in our surface water bodies. We can protect our water supplies and provide a sustainable environment for future generations by proactively acquiring the knowledge and skills necessary to deploy the monitoring sensors. Through this workshop, we will seek to foster the spirit of collaboration and knowledge exchange among participants to enable us to tap into the collective expertise gathered here. As we embark on this training journey, I encourage each and every one of us to embrace the opportunity for collaborative learning and to actively engage with the materials presented by our resource persons. I'm very confident that this workshop will not only enhance our individual capacities, but it will also serve as a catalyst for innovative solutions in the domain of environmental monitoring. Let us harness the power of technology to create a positive impact on our environment and work towards the future where real-time monitoring will help us to make informed decisions in preserving our surface water bodies. I, at this juncture, want to commend the solid waste workers for putting together this groundbreaking initiative by establishing relationship with ICTP and WACRE, which attracted this training workshop to Obafemi Awolowo University. I also extend my best wishes to our resource persons from International Center for Theoretical Physics, West and Central Africa Research and Education Network, WACRE, and to all participants for a productive and enlightening workshop experience. I will not be doing justice if I don't acknowledge the industry of the director of the institute. Thank you for the energy and for packaging this thing very well. Let us embark on this journey of learning and discovery with enthusiasm and dedication. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, before we receive a welcome address from Prof, kindly permit me to further invite Professor Amone to the high table, please. He happens to be the team lead from. So we also have Dr. Ahmad Hus from Ghana, who's also joined the people in the high table.
Representing Wakre.
Okay.
Representing Wakre.
Wakre, yes, okay. Sorry, we are moving at high speed because we are already behind the time. So I will invite Professor Olubola Babalola, who is DVC academic and is also representing Vice Chancellor. So you are welcome, ma'am.
So it's as if you have read my mind, because my plan is to bring Professor Onime and Representative Wakre to the high table, and you have done that. On behalf of Vice Chancellor, I want to welcome everybody again to this program. Those that came for the courtesy visits, they can attest to the fact that we are very, very busy at this point in time. So VC planned to be here physically, but because he's receiving other visitors, at Flow, he has asked me to represent him. So, but before I read his speech, I want to humbly ask Professor Okoya to please step forward and face the audience, please. 1 minute. Yes, come here, face the audience. Face the participants. You're welcome, sir. Thanks for your support all the time. I want to ask Professor Onime to stand up and come and stand beside him. I want to be sure that my eyes are seeing clearly, that yes, my eyes are not deceiving me. Any similarity, please look at the two of them. Any similarity, aside of these students to lecturer, they are like twins. Can you see that? Yes. So we thank God for bringing the two of you together. So as Professor Onime, please you join the provost here. Then Professor Koya, you join your wife over there. Sorry, please. We don't want all of you to sit together. Let us network. Get to know us more by chatting with the provost. So on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, I welcome everybody, the Provost, PG College, Professor V.F. Olaleye, you are highly recognized, sir. The Executive Director, Central Office of Research, where is she? Professor Okong. We know that she was the one that was holding for when they came for the courtesy visit, another meeting, all right. So she's been here before. The Center Leader, African Center of Excellence, Professor Aderomu, the directors of units and heads of departments here present, and notably the director of an institute. Where are you seated there? Institute of Ecology and Environmental Studies. Past director represented here by Professor Awolowo. You are highly recognized. All professors that are here, the facilitators and ICTP representatives from Italy, led by Professor Clement Onime. We appreciate you, sir. Resource persons from Ethiopia. You're welcome, sir. South Africa. You're welcome. Can you please stand up for recognition? I think we have another person from Ghana. So from Togo. 1 minute. Togo, please stand up for recognition. Thanks for coming. Côte d'Ivoire. Yes, the two of you for recognition. Oh yeah, you are only one, but you are more than one. Yes. Thanks for coming. Participants from Bowen University, where are they? Yeah. So because they are close by, that's why we have many of them. Yeah, highly welcome, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the opening ceremony of this training workshop on the installation and use of Internet of Things-based sensors for real-time monitoring of pollution in selected surface water bodies in southwestern Nigeria. This workshop represents a significant step in our collective effort to address the pressing issue of water pollution in Nigeria and to leverage technology for environmental responsibilities. Surface water bodies, streams, rivers, ponds, lakes are complex ecosystems with chemical, biological, and physical processes that interact with each other. A change of any one of those processes affects the delicate balance with the other processes and ultimately results in of United Nations Sustainability Development Goal number 6, clean water and sanitation, planned to be achieved by the year 2030. How many years this time? So the overuse/misuse of natural resources is the primary cause of water quality problems. Water pollution has been mostly caused by the fast-paced industrialization, increased focus on agricultural growth, use of agricultural fertilizers, and lax enforcement of laws. On occasion, the issue is made worse by the uneven dispersal of rainfall. Water quality is also significantly influenced by individual practices. Smart solutions for water quality monitoring are gaining importance with advancement in communication technology. Therefore, the use of IoT-based sensors holds immense potential in revolutionizing the way we approach environmental monitoring, which makes this workshop very timely. It enables us to gather real-time data, identify pollution sources, and take proactive measures to safeguard water quality. This training workshop is in line with the vision of Obafemi Awolowo University to be a top-rated university in Africa, that is the technological flagship of the West African sub-region, as evidenced by its application of modern technology to teaching, research, and community service, and its provision of practical solutions to social, cultural, and economic problems. Through this training, we aim to equip participants with the necessary knowledge and skills to seamlessly integrate IoT-based sensors into our monitoring systems. By doing so, we enhance our ability to detect and respond to pollution events in surface water bodies in a more timely manner, ultimately contributing to the protection and restoration of our precious water resources. Furthermore, by fostering collaboration and knowledge exchange, this workshop serves as a platform for collective learning and innovation in the field of environmental sensing and monitoring. I urge all the participants to actively engage with the training sessions, cooperate with the resource persons, and collaborate with fellow colleagues, and also use this opportunity to expand your expertise in this critical area. Let us channel our collective efforts towards leveraging technology for the greater good and contributing to a sustainable and healthy environment for generations to come. Once again, I send a warm welcome to the ICP team from Italy, led by Professor Clement Onime. Thank you very much for fostering the collaboration between ICT and OAU. Over the years, the WACRE representatives from Accra, Ghana, and our resource persons from the neighboring African countries, Ethiopia, Togo, South Africa, and Ivory Coast. To the participants, I welcome each and every one of you and wish you a fruitful and enriching experience throughout this workshop. I need to add that we appreciate the efforts put in by the Director of Interco, that is Engineer Komi Adewara. Is not here, but I know it's been up and working towards the success of this program. And I don't know whether we have people from our water, from our dam. Please, they have to be here. You need to invite the head of that unit because it has to do with water surface, so he has to be here. So on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor A.S. Bamire, you see, now your papa born you. You are the son of your father. Just mentioned your name. That's Engineer Komi Adewara. Let us clap for you very well, very, very well. It has to do with Internet of Things and is in charge of ICT. Well done, sir. Thank you very much, and I wish us a wonderful stay. Those of us that come from that came from outside OAU, wish you a wonderful stay in OAU. And as VC, we say, please don't go without having a tour around our campus because we pride ourselves as being the most beautiful campus in Africa. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, ma'am. The speech was quite educative. You sounded like Professor Neme. Thank you. So we are gradually moving to the business of the day. So we'll be inviting one of our resource persons to give us an insight into introduction of IoT, introduction to IoT communication. So the name was not spelled out.
No lunch.
The lunch is being prepared. Let's continue. Because they took the different plates.
I can't do it.
They get under the.
How many minutes?
Maybe 10 minutes. Bring him up.
So, thank you, sir. Professor Onime will do justice to the subject.
Okay, thank you. I understand that the lunch will come later. Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry, just give me a minute to set up. I'd switched off the laptop.
While Prof is getting ready, internet access is provided here by way of, there's an access point that you see, Engineer Dijon, is it OAU Engineering Cloud? And ACE, there are two access points, ACE Conference Hall and OAU Engineering Cloud. The credentials, if when the login page comes up, you can use the credentials, username IoT, and the password is sensors, all small case. We'll still project that on the screen for you to use. Username IoT, the password is sensors, small case. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
For the purpose of proper communication, we advise everyone to, especially those at the back, to move front a bit, please, so as not to get distracted.
Okay, just to get us started, this is a workshop, so it's not really a conference, so we expect it to be quite interactive. So I'll start with a question. How many of us are familiar with the term IoT? Okay, so we do have quite a few hands. Okay, that's great. This part of the talk is to try and sort of bring everybody to a common level. So it's also going to give us a brief introduction in about 10 minutes. Okay, so there is a definition. There are actually various definitions for IoT floating around. One of the ones I like to present speaks of a network of embedded objects called things. And The things could be sensors, processors, or actuators. The key goal of this network is to try and collect, exchange, or even take actions in response to data. One of the things not mentioned in this definition is the fact that it happens in real time. You'll agree with me that data is something that is very useful, and it's very common right now. In almost every field we talk of data. Even as you are sitting here, each of you is generating data. As long as you carry a smart cell phone, you are actually generating data as we progress each minute. So the ITU, which is the International Telecommunications Union, defines things as objects of the physical world or virtual things that exist already in the information domain. These things can be identified, and they can actually take take part in some communication process. Very simple example, just to give you an idea of what all of this is trying to say, is that each time you take a photograph with your smartphone, you are actually performing an Internet of Things operation. You are converting an image from the real world into a digital photograph. And if your smartphone is connected to maybe Google, you have a Google account backing it, that photograph could end up in the cloud, where it could be enhanced, it could be sharpened automatically on your behalf by some intelligent object. So essentially, these are some of the basic operations that happens in IoT. IoT is not limited to things like photographs. It could also happen with things like temperature, humidity, pressure, many of the physical phenomena that we'd have to deal with respect to science actually can be sensed and presented this way. So some of the other definitions are internet-connected computers with sensors and actuators. I will give a formal definition to sensors and actuators in a little while, because these are two key players in IoT. You can also speak about physical objects. Even more expansive speaks of a global network of computers, sensors. 2030, 6 years' time, we will have more devices on the internet than human beings. Probably we're already past that threshold, but it's probably going to be a much more significant order of magnitude. So they estimate about 50 billion devices are going to be on the internet by 2030. Just a brief history. Science has been making use of various forms of IoT for a very long time now. So I think in the early 1930s, we had weather balloons, okay, they released these balloons into space, and they try to capture data about what's happening in the upper atmosphere. These were the days where the planes were sort of like quite reserved, so they didn't have a lot of information. Definitely there was no satellite, what's happening above the near Earth that we know today. In 1970, there was talk about connecting things together, and as we know, the internet had its foundation in the 70s. And then in 80s, they were looking at controlling factory operations and stuff like that, and also having computers actively talking to themselves. So that's where we get that from. In the 1990s, we started looking actively at wireless networks. So what happened in the 80s was really using cable connections. And then in the mid-1990s, I think we also had a very strange device on the internet. Somebody connecting their bread toaster to the internet. The operations were very simple. You could put on the toaster or you could switch it off. The term Internet of Things was actually coined in 1999, and it became something global, formally recognized by the ITU in 2005. And as of 2011, even the business industries now recognize IoT as a global force to be reckoned with. We expect that, or the expectation is that the 4 key areas, one is sensors, processing, communicating, and actuators. So most of the time, a thing in the IoT sense needs to include one or more of all of this. So the first part is the sensors that take some physical phenomena, okay, or something happening in the physical world, it into digital data, which is what your cell phone does when you snap a picture. You take an image, a picture of the world, and it becomes digital data. So, there's a wireless chip built into your cell phone for that. Where we might be strangers will be things like actuators. The actuators sort of do the reverse of sensors. So they take the digital data and they perform some action. I think an example I was giving earlier on was the fact that if a friend of mine is able to, from the car, switch on and change the temperature, okay, switch on his air conditioning unit and change the temperature of his sitting room before he arrives home. So that's an actuator. He sends a command from the internet. From his mobile phone, he has an app, and that is converted to a physical instruction to switch on and off the air conditioning in his place. So that's where the actuators come in. Okay, IoT devices tend to be low cost and low power. Typically, if you have an IoT device, it can operate on batteries for up to 5 years. So you are not tied to the fact that NEPA still hasn't changed behavior in the last, I think, probably since many of us were born. They've always been up to their antics of never giving us power all the time. But the IoT devices work with batteries, and so they can actually survive outages for a very long time. There are different sensors for different domains or different areas. So this week we are concerned with surface water monitoring. There are also sensors that will do air pollution. There are sensors that are going to work with cars, okay, and stuff like that. There are sensors for doing things like even number plate recognition for vehicles, or even sensors that will do more complex chemical processes. You find them readily available. I think some of the projects colleagues have been involved in have been even tracking bats, okay, and agriculture, smart farming, and stuff like that. The key thing, I think one of the key characteristics is that this data is collected in real time. So it's happening, as it's happening, the data is almost available and also being transmitted. So just a graphical reference model to try and help us understand all I've been trying to say. We have an IoT device. The IoT device has some sensors, and it interacts with the physical world and transmits this to a local device called a gateway. Okay, the gateway then puts it on the network, which could be your local computer network or even the internet. And then you could have some back-end processes operate on this data and either drive third-party services or drive end-user applications directly. IoT devices are significantly used in health domain right now. If you have a smartwatch that is able to count your heart rate and count your footsteps, that's an IoT device that's actually making use of all of these processes that we have here. You can interact with this or get services from third parties. So I think the goal is that eventually you'll have a situation where your smartphone, as soon as it detects something amiss with your heart rate, can start notifying your doctor and notifying the hospitals directly. And for some more mundane applications, one of the things we talked about in the early 2000s that is also available now is refrigerators that can actually tell you what is not inside. I mean, you have compartments where you can put eggs, where you put your meat, you put your fish and stuff like that. And the fridge by itself monitors what you are running out of, okay? And I think in the post-COVID era, you have some of these fridges now that can also notify the supermarket directly with a shopping list and have somebody come to your front door and deliver you the groceries. It's not only limited to just food or services of like that, but you can also have things like printers. There are many people abroad now who have printers, and they don't even have to buy toners or worry about it. All they have to do is pay HP. And when the printer is running low on toner, it sends a message. It has an IoT sensor that uses your wireless, your home wireless network to send a message to HP. And HP sends you by mail. You just find the postman arrives with a parcel of your next set of toners. You don't have to worry about going to a shop, finding the right model or stuff like that. And it will do all of that on your behalf. So that's the IoT reference model. We shall probably do a bit more detail, especially on the communication side. Part of what we are planning for this week is to deploy two objects. One is going to be a gateway, an IoT gateway on campus, and we are happy to have the head of Inteku here, because this is really their domain. But once the gateway is deployed, it can work with sensors in a 10-kilometer radius. But if you have line of sight, my colleagues tell me you can actually go up to 300 kilometers. So it can cover a very extensive, one single gateway can cover a very extensive area. The good news is that WACREN is donating a total of 3 gateways, and one is going to be physically on campus here for this purpose. And then we're also going to deploy a kit of sensors to monitor water pollution at the river that is on campus here. But once a gateway is deployed, it can handle other applications. It's not limited to just one application area. This is one of the, so you have a general installation that will do things for any department that wants to do all kinds of research with IoT devices, tracking migration of animals, tracking even flying birds or flying things like that, or even monitoring plant health in remote corners, or even looking for things like pests as they come up. So these are some of the benefits we expect this gateway to provide on campus. So the first thing is it's going to generate new data. Think of it this way. Most times when you try to publish a paper internationally, they tell you they want you to present unique data or never done before research. And these IoT devices give you immediate data that provides that for your academic papers. So any paper you are submitting based on data that will come out from the sensor deployment of this gateway is really something the world has not seen before. So if it's strong enough, I believe you should be targeting top journals in the area of physics. That will be things like Physical Review, right? And maybe Nature, Science, Communications, and all of that level. It's also useful for creating new wealth. There's a lot of potential for generating additional resources. We shall focus on that a bit. It's also useful for reducing costs. And then I think one of the challenge, well, maybe not say challenge, but one area where OAU can actually stay in the forefront is to aim towards having the first smart campus in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. So the smart campus can actually do very smart things like if there's nobody in this room, It can make sure the lights are off. Air conditioning is probably going to be minimal, okay, just to ensure that energy consumptions are reduced. And then in certain faculties where researchers are working late in the night, it will make sure there's light in the right areas for them to work, and other areas, maybe the light bulbs will be switched off just to preserve things. And then it's going to be useful for interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research. The nice thing is our audience, we have a mix of people coming from various backgrounds. So we have electronics and electrical engineering, computer science and engineering, we have networking, we have ecology, right? We have chemistry, yes, physics, I believe, yeah, physics as well. Any other domain represented? Okay, civil engineering, mathematics, okay, zoology, and quantity surveying. Yeah, I think we sort of like cover a wide range. And the thing is, the sensors are available to do things in each of these areas. I think the quantity surveyors will actually appreciate it when we talk about smart buildings, okay, and even having things like smart windows, okay, to ensure that you don't get heat coming into the building or stuff like that. Okay, there's also avenue for building innovations for industry partner. Industry partnerships. I will actually mention a bit of that later on, and enhancing security. If you've looked recently, you've also seen, you might have seen several articles about smart farming and agriculture. For example, some of the Saudi Arabian, well, not Saudi Arabia, but some of the countries in that region, they are actually, in the Middle East, they are actually living on deserts. But now they've been able to, water is used for irrigation and stuff like that, so that they're able to grow and harvest large areas with vegetables. So industrial partnerships is also something that falls under wealth creation. So with industry partners, you can develop sensors for new areas and applications. So as far as we know, there's no kit right now, or let me put it this way, we do have sensors to do various things like smart buildings, smart cities, control street lamps and stuff like that. We also have a sensor kit already being built by several companies to do weather monitoring or weather, gathering information about the weather. Okay, so a few years ago, this wasn't available, but now we can buy a device that has all the sensors to do temperature, pressure, humidity, rain gauge, and stuff like that, and transmit this data in real time via the IoT network. Incidentally, Wakren is also powering or is also supporting that application. Last year, we were in Ghana to deploy a couple of them with the Met Agency, and I think there's also going to do something with the Met Agency in Nigeria in that area as well. So a few years ago, that kit or that device did not exist, but now it exists. So I'm believing that one of the outcomes of our work is really going to be develop such a kit for surface water pollution measurement. So hopefully in a few years' time, it might be possible for other institutions to buy a device that was co-created by the IES OAU and the STI team of ICTP for powering surface water pollution measurements. Yeah, you can clap, but I think you also need to think about your own individual domain, because I think that's also a very powerful avenue. If you are working in zoology, it's also possible to do something and get a kit with an industry partner that can be sold to zoos, to people who keep a lot of cattle or animals and stuff like that, or even people who are managing museums can also look at that. But I think it's also an opportunity to provide solutions to any challenges, or to most challenges industries might be experiencing. The data we collect from the devices is, I think, part of the collection of local content. So we're actually generating local content, which I think the government, the federal government, is emphasizing on. And this data can then be even provided to agencies, government agencies, and people like that for a fee. You can charge them a nominal fee and get support for the data. And more importantly, we can also use this data to build some intelligence. I think every field now speaks about machine learning or artificial intelligence, so this data will be useful in that area. Okay, my laptop is complaining about battery, so maybe I can, yeah. Okay. Do you have a suitable plug? Okay. Anyway, there's no outlet. Okay, I think they'll figure it out. But it's also going to be useful for driving publications in top journals, like we mentioned. Okay, so for reducing costs, okay, we can have sensors monitor the day-to-day consumption of resources, either electrical energy or even things like water. I think these are the two main utility costs. For a campus the size of OAU, I think this runs into millions on a monthly basis, the amount of money a university pays for utilities. So with IoT sensors, it allows us to monitor which areas are consuming the most, how we can intelligently allocate resources in such a way that we don't have to consume all of that or even waste any part of it. And then with actuators, we can then drive putting off and switching on appliances. For example, maybe if there's nobody in an office, but they forgot the air conditioning on, and this is a Friday night, it can actually automatically either scale back the level of cooling, or even something as simple as on a rainy day, your air conditioning doesn't need to be so low. Okay, it doesn't have to blast itself at 16 degrees, but it can raise the temperature of the cooling unit to ensure that you reduce energy consumption. I'll probably just skip this a bit in the interest of time. Okay, so IoT is also useful for enhancing securities. So sensing motion, sensing when something is moving in an area can trigger either audio, video recordings, or even trigger alarms. There are units that can start flashing a light or switch on your security lights as soon as there's a movement, and even start some alarm or even call the police and stuff like that. In the US right now, they actually have it at a stage where the doorbell, your doorbell is an IoT device. So when somebody comes to your door and rings the bell, it captures the person's face and does a scan. If he sees an angry face, it locks the door and doesn't allow the person come in. It could be an attacker, somebody who is annoyed. You know, but if the person has a nice face, okay, it can say, okay, we can grant access to that person. So that's all part of personal security. But these things were developed and programmed. It actually combines a bit of sensing with intelligence, that's machine learning and intelligence all happening on the doorbell right there. The doorbell has a camera to capture the image and things like that. I believe before the end of the workshop, Dr. Solomon Gizao from Addis Ababa will be talking to us about tiny machine learning, which is doing artificial intelligence on these IoT devices. So you don't really need a very big computer to be able to do some intelligence. We spoke earlier about mass movements. Did you guys plug it? Okay, it doesn't. No, it doesn't look like there is power yet. So please check it here. Okay, and some of the innovations they've been doing is also just remote monitoring plants and understanding when you have disease plants and how you can isolate them and begin to combat them. So you can curtail the spread of diseases. No. Maybe we need an adapter. Okay. Anyway, I'm almost done. Okay, so the workshop overview is that we have this partnership where we are hoping to build a kit at the end of the day, but what we are going to deploy this week is a prototype, but it's fully functional and we will start collecting data from the devices before the end of the week. We'll be collecting this data every 3 minutes to the gateway that will be deployed with the help of Inteco. And the kit also includes the ability to store the data on the micro SD card in case there's power failure for the gateway or something like that. You don't lose anything. I can give them an adapter, yeah. Okay. Okay, so the gateway is going to be using a technology called LoRaWAN for the wireless communication, so it doesn't interfere with your normal signals that are happening on the air right now. And we'll thank the Inteco in advance for access to the internet. Processing is going to be researchers, I believe not only the IES, but primarily the IES researchers. And the goal is to actually develop the data that can be used for multiple year graduate studies. So I think we can drive master's and PhD programs for up to 10 years once we're able to collect data or start collecting data from this platform. I would like to also introduce my colleagues. Dr. Solomon Gizal does machine learning, data analysis, and things like that. And Dr. Kingsley Obodo, computational material science from Northwest University in South Africa. So we hope to be able to bridge a bit of the chemistry up to the data analysis and the IoT domains. Of course, there's also been a very strong team from the IES. I think I put a comma there because I wasn't sure of the full list, but Inteco is also on that list. And I believe we can also say the Vice Chancellor. I think we had a meeting with him this morning, and he gave us his full support for not only this activity, but also subsequent work that will be happening. So I think we should thank him warmly for that. I myself am Clement Onime, but I'm not the only person working on this in ICTP. Indeed, without the help of some of my colleagues, it will not have been possible to arrive at this stage so fast. We have Dr. Marco Zenaro, who's the head of this Science, Technology, and Innovation Unit of the ICTP. There's Professor Emmanuel Petrosemoli, who acted as the technical lead. We are planning to also deploy some solar panels with the sensor kit. So whenever, even if we are going to take readings from a remote part of the river, we are sure that it's not going to have any problems or challenges with respect to energy. Dr. Marco Reinone has been the lead developer writing the code to drive the sensors and things like that. And Dr. Ritis is a postdoctoral fellow that I believe many of our researchers are also going to have the chance to interact with. The group website is shown here for further reference, but we are on ground for the whole week and I think for a few days after that as well to work with the team here. So we just also want to give special thanks to our VIP sponsors, which is the Vice Chancellor of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Professor Bamire, I believe. And the Vice Chancellor of the Bowen University. I think I was discussing with the Provost that a lot of Babalolas from Ife have gone on to be Vice Chancellors. So we have the Deputy Vice Chancellor, who is also Professor Babalola, and the Vice Chancellor of Bowen University is also Professor Babalola. But I don't think they are related. Okay. And I think between ourselves, we counted like 4 of them, but all of them finished from Ife, and they are now Vice Chancellors and key people in important institutions in the country. Then we have the special sponsors, WACREN, as well as ACE, the institution here that I think I have to probably go and see Professor Aderomo. If the mountain doesn't come to, okay, he's away from Ife, okay, we'll go and see him, okay. And then other sponsors, I also want to thank each of the participants individually. Without your personal commitment or your institutional commitments, it will not have been possible for you to be here. So we look forward to working with you and hope you make the best of this workshop. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's put our hands together once again for Prof. And for ICTP Italy and WACREN Ghana, at least for being generous enough. You've had during the course of the presentation that officially they've just donated 3 gateway to us. So this is what to be appreciated. So during the course of presentation, we have some of our prof that came in. So I have the directive to recognize the presence of Professor Akane Akihemi, DVC, Research, Innovation and Development, and also Professor Oke, Civil Engineering, and Professor Olise, Physics Department. You are welcome, sir. So I think we okay. So thank you, ma, for honoring the invitation.
Great FM radio team. Great FM radio team.
Radio team.
Great FM.
All right. Bye-bye.
So we also want to recognize the presence of Great FM Radio, Ile-Ife. So you are welcome. You are welcome. Yeah. We've had tea break now. So while waiting for the lunch to come, I think we can take 1 or 2 items on the agenda. So let me allow Prof to come.
Just a short outline of what I'll just talk about in the next 5 minutes. So, like I mentioned, we are a flagship center by the Department of Science and Innovation to be able to develop a platinum value chain. So what is platinum value chain? In essence, it's just South Africa has 60% of platinum deposit in the world, so we need to use that. So part of the way to use that is to actually develop a Science and Innovation Institute that tries to address how to develop skills in this area, how to develop competencies in this area, and how to utilize these resources, not just mine and ship to Europe and America, but actually create local content with these resources. So I like to show this figure. So we've got, we've got a refueling center in our institute, and we've got, I don't know how many of you know about hydrogen cars. Do you know about hydrogen cars? Yeah, okay, cool. I was just reading this morning that Toyota sold about 2,700 hydrogen cars in North America, and that's like what they sold. And if you think about it, we have about 50 refueling stations in California, and that's one of the only place where we have proper hydrogen infrastructure for hydrogen cars. And Shell is shutting down about 10 refueling stations, 7 refueling stations in 50, and that just reduces the number. But the major thing to just take home is that these hydrogen cars are zero pollution. So you drive your car, it makes use of basic chemistry, and you just have water. And the good thing is we have a refueling station, the only one in Africa, that can go up to 350 bars in my campus, built locally by my center. So that's like a very big deal. So just going forward, I always like to show these slides because a lot of times I present to an international audience where I'm literally the only Nigerian there, so it's kind of nice to show. I'm from Nigeria, and I took this out of Google Maps. This is actually my village. Okay, I wasn't born there, but it's actually where I'm from, and I was there this December, so it's good to brag. So I'm from Enugu State, so yes. It's something important I should tell all Nigerians. It's very important when you present internationally, sell yourself, because there's a lot of not so good news coming out of Nigeria, but we need to sell ourselves and promote Nigeria as a brand. So the next slide just shows that it's about 6,500 kilometers on Google if you check where I am based and where I'm originally from. So I was telling Clement that I'm like one of the very true Nigerians. I was born in Kaduna. I speak a bit of Hausa. I didn't Hausa, so to say, but I can't speak properly. I can speak a bit of Yoruba. I said I've never been to Ife, but I've been to Bongong, just in Ayeda, the local government. Yeah, so I served in Bayelsa. I did my master's in Abuja. So I've been around the country. I have brothers in Uyo. So I pride myself as a Nigerian in every way a Nigerian can be, which is we are some of the proudest people, we are some of the smartest people, and we are some of the most relevant people in every country. So I think there is the key reasons why a lot of things we do, why we are here. So that's why I call it my overarching aim is actually, can we develop country-centric solutions? And I think Onime said something in his presentation when he talked about IoT, that why don't we develop kits that we can sell based on our problems? So when we think about research, let's look at research based on, I want to develop problem solutions for Nigeria, and that's why this conference is very relevant. And that was part of the reason why I sort of motivated why I work where I work, and why it was even established. It was established to solve South African problems, not Nigerian problems, not anybody's problem, just specifically their problem. So I think this conference is kind of important because it drives home to that. So a lot of research I want to do is like, let's say we are at OAU, which is a public funded university. So it means you've got a social contract with the public. How can we do stuff that addresses the social need versus our intellectual need? How can we solve economic problems, and how can we solve environmental and climate problems? And I believe all of us here, we are here for that reason. So if you think about surface water and how to detect different properties of the water, this is just addressing your environmental and your climate needs. So I'd just like to acknowledge the Northwest University, OAU, NETEX for being here. And like I said, this is more like just an introductory slide. So I will go to my main presentation. So thank you for just listening to my introduction. Do we have time or should I? Okay. So I'll just dive in. This is Introduction to Renewable Energy. So this is just a brief outline of what I'll try to address, what we know about renewable energy, or what we think is renewable energy. So I'll just, I put this slide, what we know as renewable energy. Most of us, I think it's a very big one, and I felt like when Clement said I should talk about renewable energy, I'm like, I think almost everybody here know better than me about renewable energy. But I think, so let's just ask the question, how many of you know what renewable energy is? It's a workshop so we can have a conversation. So how many of us know what renewable energy is? If you don't know what renewable energy is, don't raise your hand. If you don't know what renewable energy is, you can raise your hand, but if you know what it is, just keep your hands down. So our hands are all down, we all know what renewable energy is. Yeah. Huh? You don't know it, okay. So the rest of you, maybe somebody that know, can you just tell me what you think renewable energy is? And then we can work from that basis. Yes.
Yes, just as the adjective denotes, renewable energy sources have their energy sources from sources that can be replenished, that meaning that it is not finite, such as petroleum that has reserves and those reserves can be depleted. But renewable energy sources are more or less hooked to the natural sources, to the natural processes that keep refreshing and reproducing those materials that power what we use as sources of energy. Maybe like sunlight, every day, there is day and night, the sun will always come back. Which other source? There are so many of them that are hooked, like hydrogen is also renewable because there are natural processes that can be used to rebuild it and reintegrate it back to nature. And all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. He mentioned that renewable energy are sources that can be replenished. But I think just to correct some misconception, hydrogen is not renewable energy. I think, do we have chemists in the house? Are there people with chemistry background? Huh? Yeah, chemist. So what would you call hydrogen? Yeah, he said hydrogen is a renewable energy.
Yeah, I think where he got it wrong is the hydrogen can be gotten from other sources. Yeah, then it can be used as an energy. And during this use as energy, it's converted to something that is friendly to the environment.
Thank you very much. See, you're a chemist. You want to say something?
Thank you from there that we can simply say it's a sustainable energy. Yes, since it's not releasing any toxins into the environment.
Hydrogen is not an energy. Hydrogen is an energy vector, like he said. Hydrogen carries energy. Hydrogen in itself is not energy. So hydrogen is like a feedstock for industry. Hydrogen is like something you use. So it's like lithium. So you need to... Okay, I should stop. Oh, okay. Please, when you answer a question, mention your name and where you're from. And I just want to say something that there's this thing I believe that if you answer a question, it means you actually have something to present. So please be bold and be proud of it, and let's all interact. And I thank the people that have been interacting. And then you can take us to different tangential area of our discussion. So like we're talking about hydrogen, which is very key. And I think this is something that policymakers also get wrong. So some policymakers don't understand what hydrogen is. So we talk about that to generate 1 kilogram of hydrogen, I think is being refueled at about, is it $36 per kilogram or something, and which is very expensive. So for you to refuel a typical Toyota Mirai, you need about 11 kilograms. So you're talking about significant amount of money, and that can only give you about 300 kilometers. So, I mean, even for American standard, it's quite expensive. So hydrogen is more like an energy carrier, so not an energy source. So the sun, the wind are energy sources, and these are more like renewable energy sources. So talking about the definition of renewable energy, so I guess we kind of have an idea of what renewable energy is, and we all define renewable energy differently. But there are certain standards that are used to define renewable energy. So there is the C4All tracking framework. I think this is something from the UN or so. It recommends that renewable energy can be broadly defined as the energy from natural sources that are replenished at a faster rate than they are consumed. So it talks about, we can include bioenergy, geothermal, aerothermal, solar, wind, and ocean. So I wouldn't talk a lot about all of these energy sources. But in the short term, the sustainability criteria cannot be excluded in any of these. So I remember when I teach a course in sustainability, which I think is very key in any energy source. So if you think about sustainability, you have to apply that to renewable energy. So in a lot of definitions, the concept of sustainability is not applied. So, and the reason is that there is a difficulty in distinguishing between these data. So if I have, so we talk about OAU being one of the most beautiful campus. And when I was coming here, I was asking Onimi, am I going to see those trees as big as this? So, you know, like, I'm really excited about it, because growing up, they talked about the Southwest having trees so big that you can't even, they're as big as a truck or something. So, yeah.
I said that we cut down over time, you know, for many other reasons, actually, for other development.
Yeah. So, please, I just want a disclaimer. A lot of people say bioenergy is renewable, and there's a big talk about it, so I wouldn't talk about bioenergy. And the reason is because it is very, very difficult, especially in a lot of contexts, to be able to use bioenergy in a highly renewable, in a highly sustainable way. And this talks about my next definition of renewable energy. So the International Renewable Agency, it has a statutory definition for renewable energy, and this has been ratified. So renewable energy includes all forms of energy produced from renewable source in a sustainable manner. So there's a very key thing which talks about sustainability in producing the energy. So this would include your bioenergy, your geothermal, your geothermal energy, hydropower. And you'll see from the next slide when we talk about, from the subsequent slides when we talk about sustainable manner of producing renewable energy. So then the International Energy Agency defines renewable energy as those derived from natural processes, which speaks to what he was talking about, energy derived from natural processes such as the sun. And then the sustainability aspect talks about it's being replenished at a faster rate than we consume it. So if you think about an energy source, you want to produce more, you want to use less and replace more. So just broadly thinking, think about your trees now. I see that there are a lot of building happening. So we want to ask, from the university perspective, I know all of you are here. So how many trees are being planted to replace the amount of trees the campus is cutting down? So you are here, you're also a director, so you guys should, if you cut down 1 tree, you must put up 2, huh? And Prof. So we need to address this kind of things because these are kind of small things we can do so that we say, okay, we are building for the future. So we talk about reducing air conditioning. So if we think about reducing air conditioning, yesterday we had this kind of conversation. So if you have this building, we can think about building sustainable structures. And I think it might not even cost extra money. It might even actually be cheaper to tell the architect, we want you to build these buildings in a way that reduces the amount of energy we consume. So as you're cutting down the trees to build the buildings, you must be planting tall trees by the side of the buildings. And there are actually trees you can plant that doesn't affect the integrity of the building. So we talk about renewable energy, renewable sources. We must also practice this in our environment and how we do things. So, talking about more definition. Oh, I think this is similar slide. So, yes, yes.
I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Don't be surprised about
No, I'm not surprised. It's for
I'm also learning. Okay, so it's a question, really. My name is Adiwara, OAU. So the definition of renewable energy, I'm surprised to see hydro. And based on the definition that it's energy that is replaced faster than it's used. If you look at hydro dams, a lot of the water that is used in our internal rivers are used faster than they are replaced because they are used for irrigation, because of climate change, they are rapidly going out. So can we really say that hydro, even from dam, is renewable? That's the only point I want to bring out.
Hi, is there anyone that have answers? I don't have all the answers, but I have an answer, but I don't. If anyone else can answer. Okay.
I can attempt an answer, okay? So the key reason why hydro is on the list is really the fact that when it rains, okay, depending on how hard it rains, we get an immediate refilling of the dam. Okay, so the point is we're not consuming so fast that we run out of the energy. But you see that in years of drought, we do have significant challenges for hydro energy because there's not enough water to fill things as they are being consumed. I'm also going to say, okay, if we want to start talking mathematics, we can start looking at thermodynamics, where the first law says, I don't know if we remember the first law of thermodynamics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it can be transformed from one form to the other. So in a sense, even petroleum fuel is actually renewable energy. The only problem is that there's no way we can create petroleum fuel. I mean, we can't create the fossils. It takes us thousands of years to build, to get a single fossil to develop the petroleum, and this is why it's bad for the environment. Thank you.
Hi, does anyone else have something to add? Remember, it's a workshop. Because he said that and he's the lead doesn't mean he's correct. He might be totally wrong, huh? And you can always say. So I think from our perspective, the reason why hydro is renewable is because, remember when we talk about hydro energy, we're not using the water, you know. And I'll show it in the next presentation, in the next slides. We're technically not using the water. What we're using is the kinetic energy and the potential energy. So we're not using the water is there. So when you talk about irrigation and other stuff, that's now water use. So when you use water for irrigation, you're technically not using it for electricity generation. You are using it now for food production. So, and when we talk about when we use water, the only thing a lot of people complain about with hydro dams, and which is kind of a big deal, and he's from Ethiopia and he can talk a lot. I think it's a very passionate topic for Ethiopia and Egypt, and they don't have a very good relation, is that Ethiopia built one of the biggest hydro dam in Africa. So it's a big problem. So it's not, an Egypt problem is not that Ethiopia took all the water away is that when you build a dam of that magnitude, it takes a while to fill up the dam. So the filling up process of the dam means that the lower lying areas would have very low water, and Egypt relies on this water for irrigation and stuff, and it's Egypt who should be in principle saying they are using the water and the water is not replenished faster because lower down the Nile then they have lesser water because Egypt is using the water. What Ethiopia is doing is actually building up the water and then later they can release. And another, I don't want to go into another problem with what with building renewable energy, with building hydropower dams is that we have floodgates that can control. So when it's too much rain, we need to release some of the water from the dam. If not, the dam would burst up. So instead of having a natural process, then it's a more man-made control process. But technically, we are not. The water source is not being diminished by the generation of electricity. So there is key concepts that are important. Because I was talking about sustainability, I decided that it's important to add energy accountability. So there's a lot of research that goes on in energy accountability, even at different levels. So you have primary energy accountability, where we talk about the energy based on the physical energy content. So, and we use this a lot for a lot of energy, basically fossil fuel. So if you take 1 kilogram of, so I give an example, let's say 1 kilogram of hydrogen, I know exactly how far it will drive in a car. And then if you have 1 liter of petrol, so if you say you drive one of the new cars that is let's say if your car is like a 1 liter engine and it's a new car, we can say your 1 liter of petrol can drive you 25 kilometers. So we know exactly the energy content and the energy consumption. So that is primary energy accounting. Now, the final energy accounting is sort of very different from the primary energy accounting. So this would sort of exclude non-energy uses for fossil fuels, such as when you use them for raw materials, for plastics, for chemicals. And it's very tricky because everybody just wants to throw up arms in the air and say petroleum is bad. But I have this, it's plastic. And in a lot of the clothes we wear today, there is plastic in it. If you wear glasses, you have a certain amount of plastic in it. So there's like literally plastic that is not just used for driving cars, but for creating value-added chemicals. So the question is, we need to be able to take out all of those uses. So it's kind of, so within this the total finite energy consumption model, it's kind of easier to over-report or under-report some energy sources. So this is, I think, it can be a better way to report energy. So you can talk about energy consumption directly from that, instead of just the primary energy consumption. And this can be a good thing for renewable energy and a good thing for fossil fuels, because you can tell the fossil fuel industry, actually, no, we are not using too much fossil fuel, because a lot of our fossil fuel is going to other sources rather than being for primary energy consumption. So, I'm just here to mention that there are clearly big differences how we should look at these different energy sources, and they have their advantages and disadvantages. So you can see here some of the advantages is that primary energy supply is widely used and it's really pretty easy to do. So we can just say Shell has mined 100 barrels of petrol or 100 billion barrels of petrol globally, and this is the primary energy cost. But then neglecting all other energy costs, so we don't account for that. So the final energy consumption is, it will be better balanced for directly produced renewable energy, because we can say from the renewable energy source, this is how much energy that went directly into consumption as energy needs. But you can see the disadvantages are a lot here. So losses need to be allocated. So there are certain losses from our renewable energy sources when we generate them, and we need to allocate and account for them. But part of the big problem with some of the, like if you think about primary energy supply, is that you worry about different conventions, different countries, different things. So it can be an issue. It's like, I come here and I say, we need to generate 20 pounds of hydrogen, and then if I give it to my computer science friend here and he's always thinking in kilograms, he can just quickly write kg and then it's way off the mark. But so we need to account for all those kind of losses that happen in the way we think about things. So, and part of the reason why the primary energy source can be very difficult as well to account for these assumptions is that I was having a conversation and then they talk about excess and surplus, and then they talk about how the Indians will say yes, one nod, and yes, vigorously. It means different thing. The one nod is like a no, the vigorous nod is more like, okay, I understand it now. So imagine now somebody's trying to translate that into writing, then it gets complicated. So just some basic facts about renewable energy. So I'll tend to introduce something new, which is the semi-renewable and the fully renewable. So this is, I put triple star, so caution is actually required. So like we talked about all of these, so this is just to reiterate what we've been talking about. The renewable energy would encompass a wide diversity of energy sources, varying economics, technologies, uses, end uses, scale, environmental impact, availability, and detectability. So when we talk about renewable energy, all of this should be looked at, not just, okay, we got it from the sun, but we should talk about also the economic conditions, and then the different prevailing situations. If not, would not solve country-centric or country-specific problem, but we'll be solving a different kind of problem. So, fully renewable energy resources are not depleted by human use. So it means that no matter how you want to use the sun, you're not going to finish it. Whether you put all of the blanket or whether you try to put, I don't know how many solar panels, you will never finish using the sun. Whether you want to put solar concentrators, whatever you want to do, you're not going to deplete it. While the semi-renewable must be properly managed to ensure long-term availability. And we talked about bioenergy, and this is more like semi-renewable. And then I'll talk about that in a broader context. And then most types of energy, the most renewable type of energy is energy efficiency. So it means that if you improve how efficient, like what has been talked about of IoT, it means that you would always reduce the amount of energy you use. So if we want to do renewable energy, so you won't be able to see my slides. So is that fine? Should we continue or take a break? Earlier on during the presentation, there was a question about hydropower. So based on what I've defined as fully renewable and semi-renewable energy, where do you think hydropower will fall in? Will it be fully renewable or semi-renewable? And based on the arguments we've had. Semi-renewable.
Sorry. I said it's going to be semi-renewable because right now the world is facing water scarcity, and we are now saying we want to go into hydropower. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so okay, yeah.
My name is Oke from Civil Engineering.
Yes.
Semi-renewable in the sense that when runoff, that's the one that will replace, is coming into the river. It comes with the silt. And the silt will settle down in the reservoir. So which means we are not replacing it completely. We are replacing it partially.
Yeah, thank you very much. See, that's why we always say that this is a very multidisciplinary problem. And I both agree with both of you. Hydrogen is semi-renewable. Sorry, hydropower. Hydropower is semi-renewable. So I just showed a few. So do we have geothermal energy and hydropower? These are semi-renewable. And geothermal energy, we can use it for heat and electricity. Hydro, we can use it mainly for electricity. And then the form of geothermal, I don't think Nigeria is exploiting a lot of geothermal energy, but we are exploiting at least a lot of other sources. So the forms of energy from hydropower would be kinetic and potential, like we talked about earlier. So I just went to geothermal first because that feels like we should leave hydropower for later. So with geothermal power, what we're technically doing is we taking advantage of the natural heat that resides deep within the earth crust, particularly in region where you have thin earth crust layer of volcanic activity to be able to generate energy. And if you think about this, Kenya generates about 41% of its energy, of its country needs from geothermal. And this is because of the tectonic plates and around the country and the whole activity happening there. And also if you look at places like Iceland, they also generate a lot of electricity from geothermal power. So that's why when I think about renewable energy and the concepts of renewable energy, it's kind of multidisciplinary because we need our geophysicists to be able to understand how can we generate different kind of power from different kind of places. So if you think about geothermal power, just to mention, this can be used for heating buildings and different places. You can also use it in agriculture, particularly is needed in a lot of spaces in agriculture. And we can pass it through a turbine to generate electricity. So if you pass steam through a turbine, typically what we do, then you generate electricity. Then, so this is the problem with geothermal is that it's very rare. So in a place like Nigeria, we can't use it for base load. So for most of you that have different backgrounds, you know what base load is. Does anyone understand what base load is? Base load of electricity. Base load. The engineers in the house. Yes.
Base load is essentially the minimum load requirement for a certain community a community in essence. So the minimum energy that is required to power all things in that area. Typically, energy or the load requirement fluctuates based on the time of day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Can you just tell us who you are? Introduce yourself.
My name is John Babalala, Boeing Investing.
Okay, thank you, John. So technically, he's right, and that's what base load is. So a lot of problems we have in Nigeria is because we don't even have the base load. So if you don't have the base load, there is no way you can have constant power, and this is the same situation facing South Africa and most African countries. We don't have base load. There are possibilities to generate base load. We can generate base load from fossil fuel, because if I have a coal plant that produces, say, 20 gigawatts, it will produce 20 gigawatts. But if I have a solar farm, now, when the sun is high, like it's high in most parts in Osun State, it's good for us. But then what if it rains the whole week and it's very cloudy and there is no sunlight? So we don't even have minimum base load. So we need to take into those kind of thinking into account. And so geothermal energy can suffer too from this kind of situations as well. And so it's not very, the capacity to generate base load is not there. So, but the good thing is that there are new technologies, and this opens avenue for research, like for places like in Nigeria where we don't have a lot of thin-edge crust. We can actually apply new technology or develop new technology, working with the engineers in the room and also the geophysicists and the geologists, to understand areas where we can actually generate new form of geothermal power, particularly for Nigerian situation. So the advantage of geothermal energy is that the climate and environmental impact is low. But part of the reason why we say that it is semi-renewable is that the heat in the earth is not depletable, which is true, but the use of this energy should be properly managed, because you need to prevent water or steam depletion. So this is why we're talking about the semi-renewable aspect. So you don't want to be trying to use the heat, then you sort of don't manage the situation properly, then you heat up the environment or the water around it, and then the water is just gone. Because if the water is gone, then you can't generate the energy. So you need to avoid depleting the steam. So now, looking at hydropower, this is kind of really popular in Nigeria. So we've got a couple of big dams in Nigeria. Can someone tell me some of the dams in Nigeria? Huh? Shiroro, where is it located? Yes. Oh. Soon to become.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Ayodeji Oluwatope. The dam is going soon to become a hydropower generating plant.
Oh, that's good. So OAU can have some base load. Huh? And you are? I know. You are. Your name?
Hallelujah.
Oh.
We have Kanji Dam.
Oh, Kanji Dam.
Yeah. My name is Hallelujah from Bowen.
Oh, Hallelujah from Bowen. Thank you. So I think most Nigerians are pretty conversant with hydropower. This is why I just left it out. So the good thing about hydropower is that on the climate and environmental impact, it's sort of medium on the climate impact, and the environmental impact is medium to high. And part of the reason resonates with what we're saying about when we build our dams, the way we can have different form of water situation ongoing, silt build up. So this can have a lot of impacts. And also, if you think about building the dam, pouring the water, what happens to the community downstream, the climate there, the environment there, what happens there when you are already building the dam. But if you already have an existing dam, then using the dam for this kind of, for hydropower is ideal situation. So hydropower can be generated via two means, which is you can use runoff of the water system, so you don't have to store water. So which is what they do with smaller hydropower generators. So if you have a runoff, you don't have to build water storage, then you just put your turbine there to generate power. But the problem with that is you might not have base load. So when the runoff is low, then you will have a variability in energy generation. And that's why most of hydropower is built by the storage hydro system, where you dam the river so you can have base load. So now for fully renewable energy systems, we've got wind, we've got solar, and we've got the ocean energy. Now, just out of caution, I included ocean energy because ocean energy is sort of different from the energy you have from your rivers, which are attributed more to your hydropower. And why the ocean energy is renewable is that the ocean is so vast that it will literally take you, it will literally take you some miraculous thing to actually deplete the ocean. I don't know how you will, but yeah, so we also have solar energy. So the forms of energy from solar is thermal and radiant, and we exploit this a lot in a lot of situations. And then the wind energy, you have kinetic, while the ocean energy takes advantage of your kinetic and potential forms of energy. So if you think about wind energy, we mainly utilize wind power. So we think about natural air that flows in the atmosphere. This is utilized to generate mechanical power and electricity. So it's a fully renewable energy source with particular, impacts. And the reason is because when you put your wind blade there, it just blows. So when we say no impact, from our perspective, I think maybe a bit of caution as well, because maybe you can have migratory birds, depending on the size of your wind farm, it might affect these migratory birds. But I'm not an expert in the migration of birds to be able to particularly point this out. So it's amongst the low-cost sources of energy generation, because you just put your wind there, and then you can generate low-cost energy. And then in a lot of countries, it's one of the fastest-growing energy sources. And I think Nigeria also particularly has potential to generate wind farms, particularly around the coastal areas. So there is high potential for further development, both onshore and offshore. So in Nigerian aspect, that's why we have a lot of experts. So we need to understand the climatic condition. But offshore Nigeria, we can generate a lot of wind energy. So the climate and environmental impact of wind farms are really, really low. So if you think about this, a country like the United States has a lot of installed capacity of wind energy, and this is because of the low-cost generation of wind power. And different countries have different energy mix in their wind power. So in the Nigerian landscape, to date, I'm not conversant with the landscape of wind power in Nigeria. But thinking about solar power is something that is really, really big in Nigeria. Excuse me. So the next form is solar energy. So solar energy is the radiant energy from the sun. And so I think this would be a right position for us to take a break. So I think when we stop here, you guys should think about what is, I think for a lot of us that did undergraduate engineering and physics, we would understand what radiance is. So just think about what radiance is, and then you would answer me after the break.
Thank you. It's good. You are a good observant. You could see that certain level of energy already depleted. Yes. So let us go and replenish.
We need to renew.
So thank you, sir.
Sorry. Impact assessment. So we also have to evaluate the impact. So there's some issues with impact that is happening.
So thank you.
Okay, so just some quick housekeeping. We've announced the restroom facilities. Has that been announced formally, sir? Okay, the restroom facilities are on the ground floor here, just outside this door. Not anything internal outside the door. Parking spaces are around. Internet access is available. Tea and lunch are served as announced. The only additional announcement from the sponsors is a request that the participants should please sustain this wonderful attendance, and that the sponsors also require some form of attendance before breakfast and after lunch. So please, we want to appeal that please try to come back after lunch so that you can also tick your attendance before we close for the day.
Before you know it, it's Friday, and you'll be going back with a lot of resources. There will also be international certificates, as it were, as an outcome from this event. So please hang around long enough so that you can get all these resources as promised by the organizers. Dr. Koyama, do you want to add to anything that I've said? I couldn't have said anything. So I think on that note, lunch is served. I don't know the protocol for lunch, where, how,